Welcome to another episode of Solution. My name's Jade H. This is Brendon L. We are still making our way through the steps, and today we are on step 8. Step 8 being... Come on, dude.
Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
Made a list of all the people we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Okay. Have you made amends to all the people that were on your list?
I have made amends to all the people that were on my list.
Your first list?
Yeah. But...
That list has changed?
No, I practiced a step 10, so I kind of
Right.
don't have a...
Promptly?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there were some amends that I completely forgot about until I saw that person and I was like,
Yeah.
shit, I owe this person an amends.
Yeah.
That happened quite a few times. It happened to people coming into recovery.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I wasn't really very nice to that person. And I made those amends pretty quickly when I saw those people.
Yeah.
But there are probably still a few that might pop up. I'm saying even however many years later, after doing these steps for however many years, still to this day, I think there's some people that I've forgotten about.
Totally.
And that I owe amends to.
I mean, I think when we're initially doing this process, we kind of, and understandably and probably rightly so, we kind of, I think there's a bit of a focus on the more sort of severe harms.
Yeah.
And the more kind of gentler, more subtle ones kind of slip through the cracks. So I think it's easy, and they're not even always gentle and subtle. It's really hard. We hurt a lot of people. It's hard to actually remember all of them. I mean, I made some amends in the last couple of months to people from back in school, dude.
Yeah, I did the same sort of thing. I saw a guy in a meeting that was from school that I wasn't very kind and nice and gentle with.
Yeah.
I was an arsehole.
I mean, I feel bad that it didn't occur to me when I was making my first list or whatever. I feel bad that I was not mindful enough that I caused that harm. But at least it still came up eventually.
I don't think you should. Well, it's good to feel bad about things, I think. But it wasn't a conscious.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah.
But these things do come up.
So I kind of like that the step is kind of in two parts. It says we made a list of all the people we had harmed and became willing to make amends to all of them. Now the reason for that being that I like that is because I think in the process, some amends, there was a bit of a two-way thing that took place, right? Yes, I caused harm, but they also caused harm. And sometimes maybe the harm initially came from them. And my harm was caused because I retaliated or whatever. You know what I mean? So
I know exactly what you're saying.
So the willingness to make amends to some people might not be immediately forthcoming, right?
Yeah, I hear you, but the thing we need to focus on here is that whatever the other person has done doesn't matter. I know it's hard, but that's what you need to focus on when doing this step. Is whatever they did to you doesn't really matter. And this should be addressed in step 4.
I hear you.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I mean, but
sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult, all these emotions or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to focus on not what they've done. This is about what I've done, and I'm willing to make that amends. I made a list of all the persons I'd harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. I think it's like a setup for the next step.
Yeah. Can I tell you where I'm going with this, right? I think if I break the step up into two parts, right? And I say I made a list of all the people I'd harmed.
Yeah.
And just put a little full stop there, right? The invitation to me there is that I don't think about it. I don't go into a long drawn out thought process around each person, right? If it comes up for me, if their name comes up, the chances are, yes, I did something to harm that person, right? So I don't think about it. I just make that list. Boom, 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 boom. And then it says, and became willing to make amends to them. And then when I revisit that list of names, there'll be some that like, yeah, no problem. I'll call them up right now.
Yeah.
And then there'll be others that are like,
You know, like some that will be like, I actually can't wait to make this amends. Like I really feel like I need to make this amends.
Yes.
And then others that like whole thought process of like, oh, but they did this and this to me, and like a justification on why I shouldn't make that amends.
Yeah.
And like, screw them, man.
Yeah.
I'm not making this amends. Are you mad?
And
they must come say sorry to me.
And I mean, I think once this list is in place, I think it's useful to talk to our sponsor about who all the names on the list, right? And I think it's okay to kind of like put them into categories and say, yeah, these are the people that I can call up immediately, go visit immediately, and these are the ones that might take a little bit of time, but nonetheless, they're on my list, and I need to get around to it at some point. And it probably requires a little bit of process work with my sponsor, or my shrink, or my friend, or whatever. Yeah?
Yeah. I think it's like willingness. So the willingness comes into this quite a bit. I may not want to do it, but I'm willing to do it. So you can work on that for a little while. You can let it ruminate.
Yes.
I know a lot of people do this, and I'm not suggesting everyone should do this or anything. I know like some people are anti it, but some people will do a step 8 and 9, whatever, 8, and they move on to like 10, 11, and 12. And they let those other steps wait. Because sometimes people can fly through the steps. If I get through the steps in like 3 months, I don't know if people are going to accept my apology sometimes, because they haven't had the opportunity to see the changed behavior.
Okay.
We are jumping the gun, eh?
I wanna, is making an amends saying I'm sorry?
No, definitely not. But we'll tackle that in step 9.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
Definitely not. It's a lot more. So an apology is saying I'm sorry, and amends is making things right.
Yes. Yeah. Look, sorry. No, I was just thinking about the other reluctances that could come into making an amends, right? Like sometimes there could, I'll bring it up again, that there could be legal consequence. Right? Like if I've stolen money from somebody,
Okay.
there could be legal recourse for making an amends. So there could be a reluctance to do that.
Yeah.
So.
But it's that's again a step 9 issue, because harm them or others.
Okay, I mean, all right. So we can elaborate on this point in step 9.
That's going to be a long story, though.
But however, I mean, it does touch on the willingness, right? Like I might not be willing right now.
Well, like I've had situations, but
they should go on the list anyway. Whether we get around to doing it or not,
it should go on the list anyway. Yeah, it should go. You owe this person an apology, and maybe not so willing, but like, if it irks you a little bit, or something inside you that doesn't sit well with you,
yes,
you owe the person an apology. You owe the person if there's ugliness to it or whatever it may be, and it doesn't sit well in your core, I think you need to put them on the list.
Okay, so now just for the viewer and for my sake, because every time I hear you say make an apology, I interpret that to mean to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's an amends. Yeah.
It is more to it.
Yeah, there's much more to it.
Okay, which we'll get into in step 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've had sponsees who like stole a whole lot of stuff from work, and we get to this step, and it's difficult for them because they could lose their jobs. There could be legal ramifications. It's a tough one. You know?
I mean, okay, so I think I'm asking some of these questions because the step kind of suggests that we need to make this list of names and be willing. What I think I'm trying to get at is that there might be a hesitation, a reluctance, a reservation, and therefore the willingness might not be entirely there in some cases. I'm saying, like, just go put them on the list anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
I would
like
say that too.
Like that willingness. I think the word, does the wording not say we became willing?
And became willing. It
No,
does.
we became.
Yeah,
So it doesn't say we are,
Yeah.
it says we became. So that willingness might not be immediately present, but with some work with our sponsor, it will come.
Yeah, and with working this program and through everything and hearing other people's experiences of doing step 8 and 9, we kind of like, but I've got a lot to say on step 9. But 8, you make a list.
So it's not that hard, really. Step 9 is a bit more complicated.
Step 9 is very
The action of step 9 is a bit more complicated.
and like, there were some people, like, not, I owed them an apology. They had done no harm to me. I owed them a sincere, genuine amends, an apology, whatever. And, I was terrified to make that.
Don't scare the people now, dude.
Well, I'm just being dead serious. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie to them.
Yeah.
I was terrified to make those amends. A lot of the time, like, people will see this step as something for the other person. But I think deep down, this is actually something for you. So you can move on in a way.
I hear you, bro, but I think that's a bit of the cart before the horse, in my opinion, because I think the consequence of making the amends is the freedom that it brings to me,
Yeah.
which is amazing, and like we can talk about that. But I think first and foremost, it needs to be about the other person, dude. Because I'll tell you why. No, I'll tell you why. Let me finish. Because how many people, probably even you, myself included, like when we start this program, right? We haven't even really completed step 1, and we're already like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. We just want to go out and say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's such a self-centered motivation, right? I think by the time we get to step 8, I think the sincerity behind wanting to make right with a person should not be self-motivated.
I hear you. It has to be a sincere amends,
Yeah.
But like I was saying, that there's like a lot to do with me when I make those amends. But if I'm coming from a if I'm not coming from a sincere place, that sort of shit that sits unwell with me is not going to be lifted.
No.
So it has to always be coming from a sincere place.
With a kickback.
With a kick, comes with a kickback. You know what I mean? It really does. Because we'll discuss that in the next step.
Okay, so we're done with step 8.
I think we're done with step 8. You know what I mean? Make that list. Even if some of them don't sit well with you, that stuff you should have addressed in step 4.
Yeah.
Like, that's what step 4 and step 8, 9 and 9. I mean, step 4 and step 8 and 9, like, work in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
They all work in conjunction with each other, because every step you've got to come back to the honesty, the open-mindedness, the willingness. It's like re-loops itself all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of these steps.
Yeah.
What I really liked about this step 8 was that I wasn't entirely willing on all of them. I did become willing eventually. And some of them were really hard, and it took like a lot of courage to do, and I was terrified to do them, but I did them anyway, and some didn't end so well.
We'll talk about that in step 9.
We will indeed.
Okay, until then, maybe you're out there and you owe Brendon... yes.
You were saying earlier, like, we want to say sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked in treatment facilities for the last, 7 years.
Yeah.
And, people get their phones taken away in some treatment facilities. And, often the first thing they do when they get a phone call is, phone their loved ones and start apologizing.
Yeah.
And it's it's pointless, I think, at that point.
I don't know that it's pointless.
I
Brie.
don't know,
I
you
think
know?
I think it's kind of well meant, but I think it lacks depth, dude. Like it lacks because how many times in active addiction, how many times did we?
Well, this is
I'm
what I was
sorry,
gonna
I'm
say.
sorry, and you go out and do it again.
You
Yeah.
know, like, it's like, so I think that's why this step is so much later on in the program when we've dealt with all our own shit, really.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
start to understand the mechanisms behind our shortcomings.
Which is in 4, 5, 6, 7, and we should be ready if we work these steps thoroughly and painstakingly.
Anyway. Okay, cool. So we're going to get into the spiritual principle of step 8. But before we do it, do you give us a thumbs up for this video? It would be awesome. Do you hit the subscribe? Maybe you owe me or Brendan an event, in which case you can do that by hitting the subscribe button.
Yeah, you can hit the subscribe button or just comment even.
Hit the comments. Let us know about your trepidation around working step 8. It's all good. Thank you so much for watching wherever you are in the world. We hope you have a blessed day.
Peace.